think it works. Yay! I don't have to use my teacher voice all evening. But we will get started. I'm sure there will be a few more people on their way in. But welcome, and the League of Women Voters of Linn County is glad that you are here as an active participant. This is one of the League's mission, is educating the public and voters. And so we're glad that you are seeking more information from school board candidates and from city council candidates. I'm Carolyn Stevenson, and just if you're not familiar with the League of Women Voters, yes, it says women voters, but we are open to anyone 16 and older, and we don't care what your gender is. Now, we're not partisan, but political, but we do not endorse any candidates or take, defend a candidate. We study issues that are of concern to our membership, and then those are the things, the topics that we focus and advocate for. I really want to remind you that we're beginning with the Linn-Mar School Board candidates, and then we're going to, for 45 minutes, and then we're going to right away roll into the City Council. So we're going to make a quick transition. We appreciate that ProVideo live streams our forums on Facebook, and then they're there under the League's Facebook for people to go view if they hadn't been able to be here, if they want to go back and listen again. So here's the protocol for our group, and we thank Evan Langston and Minhut Mansour and Laura Thomas and Michael Bowling. You're right. There's not much room on this podium up here, let me tell you. We're going to go down the row. Each candidate has a minute and a half to respond to the questions. I have so many questions up here. The timer will let you know when you're down to 30 seconds and when you're down to 15, and then we really do need you to stop because we have so many questions to get to. We will start with a 2-minute introduction for each of you. And when we close, if we have time, we'll also do maybe an abbreviated 1 minute, because I'm looking at the number of questions I have, and yeah, Katie barred the door. Let me just make sure, if your cell phone hasn't been muted yet, please do that. And the questions you ask come up and are organized by the folks here, and maybe your writing is like mine and it's not very legible, so they may do a little bit of a translation, but we kind of group them into big categories. But let me start by letting you have your 2 minutes of introduction. Evan?
Alrighty, test this thing out and see how close it needs to be or not. Thank you all for coming tonight. I appreciate the time you've taken to be involved. I also want to take some time to thank Medco and the League of Women Voters for putting this on, and all the other sponsors of this evening. Like I said, my name is Evan Langston. I'm a near lifelong resident of Linn County. I attended the Cedar Rapids Public Schools as opposed to Linn-Mar. I don't quite have that honor yet, but hopefully I can become an alumni by proxy. I met my wife here in Linn County, and we've been married for 15 years, and we have a son who's 9 years old who goes to the Linn-Mar district. For me, professionally out of high school, I began washing dishes in restaurants. It was my dream to be a chef. I spent about 15 years working in kitchens, and I had really the pleasure and dream of my life to finish that time as the executive chef of Cottage Grove Place, which is a retirement community here in town. In 2020, I did lose the job due to cuts in the pandemic. They were looking to, as everyone was, reduce their staffing. As with so many things, one door closes, another one opens. And I was very fortunate to be able to take a role with Collins Aerospace in a support position to engineers. And one of the best things about that has been that has afforded me more time to be involved in my community, to be involved in my son's life. And those two things have been the absolute best thing for me. So I coach my son's YMCA soccer team. I started a nonprofit this year called Cedar Valley Working Families, and this next chapter of my life has been one that I'm defining by being involved in public service, and so I'm really looking forward to this opportunity to run for school board. Thank you.
Hello, I see a lot of friendly faces. Hi, everybody. My name is Midhat Mansour. I am on the school board with my friend Laura here for last year, and currently I work at Collins Aerospace as a financial analyst. I'm an engaged community member. I have been a volunteer in the district for the last 14 years, and my daughter graduated from Linn-Mar a couple years ago. So ever since I've been appointed at Linn-Mar School Board, we have been working very hard to make data-driven and fiscally responsible decisions while listening to all of our stakeholders. So that means our students, our teachers and staff, and our parents and our families, as well as our larger Linn-Mar community as a whole. So in my opinion, Linn-Mar is a destination district. It's a destination district because we chose it. It was our destination. And we have not looked around even once, you know. We invest in our schools, we invest in our students, we invest in our teachers. And I want to keep continuing that and make sure that we stay a destination. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Hi, everybody. I'm Laura Thomas. I currently serve on the board at Linn-Mar. I was appointed about a year and a half ago after the resignation of a former board member. So since that time, I have gotten to serve on a number of the Linn-Mar Board of Directors committees and participate in all the amazing events and learn so much. But before I was appointed, I started by watching the Linn-Mar School Board meetings live on YouTube with my phone propped up in the kitchen cabinet. I was making dinner for my kids Monday nights, and I wanted to stay involved. I wanted to be informed, and that was the only way I could do it because it's just me and my 2 kids at home. And I was grateful for that communication and transparency that watching the videos afforded me. So my kids have been at Linn-Mar since kindergarten, but I'm originally from a small town in northeastern Iowa. So there were only 86 in my high school class, and when I first came here, I was like, oh my gosh. I got lost in the high school a number of times, but then I realized that Linn-Mar is really not a huge school with thousands of students and over 1,000 teachers, but it's a bunch of small communities that support each other and that make up the larger school. And so we are glad to call Marion our home. I convinced my parents to relocate, so they actually live in the Linn-Mar district as well. And they're retired educators. They worked for the AAs in Northeast Iowa. And so I grew up knowing what an IEP was and understanding that students don't come in one shape and size. They come in lots of shapes and sizes. And if some need a little more help than others, we owe them that to get a high quality education. And I'm grateful that Linn-Mar offers students that opportunity.
All right. Thank you for Linn County League of Women and all the other sponsors and voters present. So I thank you and appreciate you. I am a proud parent of 3 students in Linn-Mar School District. I have a 5th grader at Boulder Peak and a kindergartner and 3rd grader at Indian Creek Elementary. I am the Director of Program Management at Crystal Group, where we are a rugged technology company employee-owned out of Hiawatha. And to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm originally from North Carolina. I married into Iowa. I grew up in the public school system. My mother is a retired school nurse. My My undergraduate is entrepreneurship, small business management, as well as I have a master's in business administration from East Carolina University, again, East Coast. I have 10 years direct experience in the technology education space, working with independent school districts in Texas as well as in South Carolina. That is where I work primarily with directors of technology, but communicated with the superintendent, the administration, and the teachers, anywhere from classroom design to hardware installation. I personally trained the teachers on the software and was part of the classroom implementation. I want to take those skills I developed and experience, passion of being a parent, and my business skills and make a difference and level up Linn-Mar. That's why I asked you to vote Michael and Linn-Mar School Board. Thank you.
Thank you for those introductions, and Michael, you might as well keep the microphone.
Okay.
We have a lot of questions, and so I may not be reading it exactly as he wrote it, but for example, I took these three and condensed them. Yep, we're going to ask you to talk a lot. You may need that. The question that I condensed is, what education, experience, and skills qualify you and include any school or district activities you have or in the past have participated in?
Sure. 90 seconds?
Yeah, sorry.
All right. We're communicating. I'll see it. So first off, I touched a little bit about my experience. I want to talk about my children, what I do here first, and then I'll bring it back to that. So, proud parent to be as active as possible. I was always in athletics. I was not gifted in voice or band. I stayed in athletics. My daughter is a Linn-Mar Basketball Association player, has been for the last 2 years. I was the head coach last year. I'm volunteering this year for her 5th grade. My son is a wrestler for Linn-Mar Wrestling Club. And my 5-year-old Ivy's just kind of trying some things out in the city of Marion. So she just, we're throwing it all to see what attaches. But I help coach her soccer. I'm currently coaching my son's baseball on Sundays and watching him play flag football on Saturday. I'm very active and want to be a part of their activities. I also know I have a certain skill set of coaching with certain sports, and I know when I probably need to step aside and let someone else come in. And I use that with other skills and say, maybe you're the subject matter expert to come in. So that's about me and my kids. My technology experience, I've had a lot of hours in the classroom, and I want to bring that skill set of Texas and South Carolina schools and understanding what it takes to give teachers what they truly need to be successful and do what they want to do, which is teach. Time's up. Thank you.
Look at me, learning. All right, well, I mentioned my parents worked for the AEAs, and growing up in an education-focused household, I thought, yeah, I'll be a teacher too. And so I started at Drake University, first semester, they put me in a 2nd grade classroom. Turns out, I do not have the patience to be a really good teacher. And I didn't want to be a really bad teacher either. And so I pivoted to policy. So I studied political science, actually, because I thought this is a way I can impact education. I can advocate for good education policy. Graduated in 2009, recession, grad school. Okay, what can I learn to build my skill set? I specialize in workforce development at a public policy school. So I've spent most of my career analyzing workforce development data from the Census, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Bureau of Economic Analysis, looking at how people are trained and apprenticeships and how they move into all these different occupations. And so I've spent my career taking all this complex industry economy data and making it into something that I can hand to my community development experts and make a decision with, make a good decision with. And I apply that same analytical lens to my school board work. There's a lot to get through, whether it's budget, student assessments, and I try to make it comprehensible at the board table, and so that way the public, the teachers, and my administration can make the best decision they can. Thank you.
I guess I'm learning too. So the question is, what education, experience, and skills qualify you? And what have you participated in? So I graduated in Ohio, from a public school, and my graduating class had 693 students. Very similar to Linn-Mar. And it was a public urban school. So a lot of diversity, a lot of different needs, a lot of needs we don't even know exist anymore. So constant change times. I never wanted to be a school teacher. Honest, I can't, I don't have the patience for it. My aunt and my grandma were both public educators in Pakistan, where I grew up and moved to the States when I was 15. So, did public education, went to college in the U.S. For economics and did not like it. So I pivoted. I pivoted to chemical engineering. And what qualifies me is that I am constantly pivoting and learning. I work as a financial analyst, having all these different backgrounds. And what do? I coach students, I tutor students in chemistry for free. I also volunteer a lot, marching band, show choir, even after my daughter has graduated. My time's up, sorry.
Now the most interesting response, possibly, because as the least educated person up here, I'll acknowledge that I don't have a post-secondary degree. But I think that my experience growing up in high school was one that if you didn't go to a four-year college, that possibly you were a failure and that you didn't succeed. I think that that's a message that we need to work to reverse amongst our school children. And I think that for me, I went out to the workforce and I started washing dishes. And I worked my way up. And Linn-Mar already has wonderful programs that help support kids get into the community. They already have these programs in place. And I want to be a champion for these students to see some of themselves, that it's not just four-year degree people. They are wonderful, they're intelligent, and we need them. But one of the things that we also need is somebody with real-world experience who has gone out there, gotten a job, and worked themselves the way up. I went from a dishwasher to an executive chef. In my time as a chef, it comes from the French brigade system, which is a military system. When you're the chef, you're the general, right? It means that you are controlling everything going in and going out. You're running a budget, you're looking at the cost, you're looking at the hours, you're putting out food, you're plated, you're putting out 10 fires at one, I lost my mic there, putting out 10 fires at one time. And so I am no stranger to running a business, to controlling costs, and to being a counselor to your line cooks and being a help to whoever you need. So thank you so much. That's my time.
The categories of questions, the first question I'm going to come back with a condensation is on ESAs, and then we have some policy-related questions and curriculum, parental involvement, so we're talking. I'll just straight up, what do you think of the ESAs and what has their impact been on both the public school system, including specifically Linn-Mar, and private schools?
I want to start out by saying that I am a staunch advocate of public schools. I think that very creative attempts are being made that have the end goal of defunding public schools. And I think they are being done using clever language and clever methods. I think at the end of the day, regardless of any of that, my focus is that we need to be champions of public schools, which means that they are publicly funded. I believe that there needs to be a strong separation of church and state, and that public dollars need to go to public education.
So I grew up in Pakistan. Pakistan has a privatized education system. So the public dollars, tax dollars go to the public schools, but they don't. They really don't. People don't put their kids in public schools. Public education means nothing over there. And if we start taking the dollars out of the public schools with the ESAs, we are going to move towards a third world country. There's a lot. Look it up, guys. Look up schools in Asia. Most of the schools are private schools. And that's where the quality of education comes from. I graduated from a public school in Ohio, and I am all pro public schools. We put our daughter into a private school and then removed her and moved her to Linn-Mar, to Bowman Woods, because we did not, I don't want to say care for it, but some of our values didn't connect. We want every dollar, public dollar, to go into public school, and I'm a strong advocate. Me and all of our school board members went to the Day on the Hill in Des Moines to advocate for public school funding, and we're going to continue doing that. Thank you.
I'm going to start by saying public money for public schools, full stop. That being said, I don't expect Linn-Mar to be the right fit for every kid. Linn-Mar is big. It can be overwhelming. The student-teacher ratios can be a lot. And this is coming from somebody, again, who's from a very small school. Linn-Mar was overwhelming at first, so I get it. I have friends that I went to high school with who moved down here. They live in the Linn-Mar district, and from the get-go, they chose one of the rural schools to the north. My son's best friend ended up enrolling to a school north of our district. I don't expect Linn-Mar to be the right fit for everybody. That being said, public schools serve anyone and everybody who lives in the community who wants an education, and that opportunity is open to any child, no matter what their circumstance. And that is for the betterment of everyone. It's a workforce thing. These are the kids that are growing up in the community, that are headed to jobs, and these are families. And so it is investment in our community, and that is why I believe public dollars should stay in public schools. Thank you.
Right. Public school money should be in public schools. Same. But I want to be clear on what the responsibilities are of the board, and the board doesn't pass legislation. We have to understand where the funding is, how it's flowed down, and how do we maximize the funding. In my experience, I worked in Texas with independent school districts down there, and I witnessed a school district build, fully install technology in buildings. They said, we're growing, we need to build. They didn't pay attention to who's buying the houses in the housing market. The housing market outpriced the families. And then they didn't have any students. And they literally had empty, brand new schools sitting there with technology collecting dust. I have the business experience and the experience in technology within education to help bring vision to make sure that doesn't happen. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have Laura start with the next question, and it's a policy related and probably not a surprise to anyone with news of the last week. I'll just pose it this way. How will you ensure all district policies are fair, effective, and clearly communicated, even if you disagree with certain policies? And I think, let's just put the elephant in the room out there. We're talking about inclusion. And sometimes people hear that word and cringe, but that's the gist of that question. So Laura, we'll start with you and then go to Midhood and then Evan and back to Michael.
Great, thank you. So I was appointed a year and a half ago, and at the last board organizational meeting, I wanted to be on the policy committee. And so I very much appreciate this question because it is such a challenge. And I have spent my time on the board working with my fellow board members on the committee and the board itself, because the work happens in both places, to try to figure out how to craft policies to follow the law, that are fair to students, and that respect everyone's rights. And yeah, it is hard. And we spent, especially, I'm just gonna, since we're calling it like it is, when they took gender identity out of the protected class in Iowa, we spent probably close to 100 hours in policy committee meetings, in board meetings, sitting at home looking at code and trying to digest what this means for us and how do we balance legal recommendations with what we want to give to our students. And I wish I had, if I had an easy answer, we wouldn't have spent 100 hours in those meetings. But I will tell you this, we talked, clear communication. We brought it to the board table, we brought it to each other, and we laid it all out on the table. And that's the only way we can get through these hard decisions. Which way do you go to?
So I am not on the policy committee, but on Fridays before the school board meeting, our agenda gets sent out to us, and all of the exhibits that come with the agenda are placed, and a lot of them are around policy and reading policy. So our job as non-sitting members of the policy committee is to read every word that's in those policies and making sure we understand it, and then reread it, and then have a discussion about it, about our views. We can't talk about it prior to the meeting. We have to do it in an open public space. And we do our research. There's a lot of research, and every one of us, in the end, we have to be collaborative when we make these decisions. And yeah, I wanted to keep gender identity on the table. So that's why I voted the way I voted at that. And because of the law, we had to take DE&I out of the policy. And all of us will always follow the law. We have to follow the law. And Laura does a good job of providing us the background of what the law says to us. Thanks.
Yeah, let it go since it seems to be. It's get on the bandwagon here. I might be looking down. Oh, this isn't working well for me. I think it's important to acknowledge and understand that as a board, this is a collaborative body. And I think the other piece that you need to understand is that as part of that collaborative body, they're not acting alone. They're acting with lawyers that are part of Linn-Mar. You would be acting with the staff of part of Linn-Mar. And so my focus would be to be somebody who's going to go in and be collaborative, be a team player. There are lawyers on staff for a reason. There are staff members at Linn-Mar for a reason. There's a superintendent for a reason. She gets a paycheck for a reason. And so our role on the board is to discuss all of those things, but also to balance that with insight that we get from the professionals in that area, from the lawyers, to balance that with insight that we get from the community. And again, to go in with an open mind that we haven't predetermined what we're going to do and how we're going to act. This is about reacting to the information and the facts. And again, working in such a way that we're collaborating with the other board members, and that we're also collaborating with the resources that are available to us, such that when we are putting in place policy and voting on it, that we're putting in the best policies that we can. I think that Linn-Mar has done, and the board has done an excellent job of putting in policies that are absolutely follow the law and that are absolutely from the best moral practices. Thank you so much.
We got a few microphones.
Oh, sorry.
Don't forget about
Pass
my
it down the
line.
I'm looking at the stack of questions.
Mike Rawlings still present. Good, all right. So the question was, how will you ensure all policy are fair? And then asked a little bit about inclusion. So I'm going to cut that up a little bit. So how will you ensure all policy? It's by committee and bringing in subject matter experts. I do that all day, every day at work. I come in, I work with engineers, mechanical, electrical. You do not want me working mechanical or electrical. I know that, and the customers don't want that either. But it's operations, supply chain, contracts. And so I do that all day, every day. You have to set policy, and then you need to support policy. But also with that, you need to hold people accountable, and that's the district and the superintendent. The only way to do that successfully is doing it the right way, which is showing support to the district and the superintendent, and then finding out what do you need to be successful and trying to make sure the policy is set with flexibility for them to do what they do best. You hire a superintendent to run the school district. Give them the tools to do so. I've got a timestamp, so inclusion. I'm a big supporter in disability inclusion. My nephew has Downs. He's over at Wilkins and has had a great success with the educators there at Wilkins. I think what the risk is, it's today is going great. What about tomorrow? And can we have leaders such as myself try to help give that vision to give support to those students and all students? Thank you.
All right, let's pass the mic down to Vinette. And there's a ton of questions on finance, as you can imagine, what the hot topics are. And so let me just phrase it and give you a moment to think about it. How would you approach fiscal responsibility given rising costs, budget constraints, and taxpayer concerns? How would you approach fiscal responsibility given rising costs, budget constraints, and taxpayer concerns? We could add parental concerns because parents are taxpayers too.
You know, as a financial analyst, I have to look at a lot of things, and finance goes hand in hand with prioritizing. We have to prioritize everything. With the way inflation has been and our school funding not keeping up with inflation, we have had to make some hard decisions. We have been budgeting conservatively, which means that we like to stay within that 1 to 2% when we are planning our budget. And last year we planned our budget before the budget was even finalized, and we got it. And we planned it conservatively. That meant that we planned it at like the 1.5% increase. And then we have to, like our parents and our taxpayers, we have to be fiscally responsible for them, to them. So what does that mean? It means prioritizing what we can cut. It could mean looking at what curriculum has to be held one year and have to wait next year to upgrade that. It could mean, you know, I hate saying it, larger class sizes. It could also mean what building will get a roof or not. So just prioritize, and then come up with a needs assessment. I serve on the facilities committee, sorry.
Go ahead. Then we'll cycle down to
I think one of the biggest things that's play here when we're talking about the fiscal responsibility and how do you manage this budget is I think there's an intersection of the taxpayers and what they think the money is going to, and when they see very large numbers and what's actually happening. I think the board has done a good job of this, but it always needs to be something that we're continuing to work on, is that we need to have transparency and communication with the community so that they're understanding what's happening. That being said, let's lay out some facts. Iowa used to have first in the nation quality schools when we were funding as a 4% increase. That's no longer happening. Obviously, there's nothing we as a community here in Linn County or in Linn-Mar can do about that, but we need to acknowledge that we're now at that 1.5% to 2% increase level. What that means then is looking at our budget in a holistic approach. We're looking at 78 to 80% of the budget being going towards staffing, which means as a reality, as we talk to members in the community, we have to understand that if we're finding areas that we are going to be making cuts or we're going to be judicious with our money, that it's going to probably have to come from staffing. There is a lot of complexity to how the school board is able to fund certain things. And it's important to communicate to the community that just because you cut in one area, you can't use that money to build a playground or to fund one other priority or another. There's a lot of rules in place there. So thank you so much.
Down to the people.
First and foremost, I use the same process. You step back, you evaluate. Where's the money coming? How much money is coming in? What's your 5-year, what's your 10-year projection? This is what I do at work all day, every day again. We are actually completing our strat plan now. It's a 3, 5, 10-year projection. How do you do that? You bring in subject matter experts that know about their areas of funding and that come in. How do you figure out budgets? You get everyone in a room, you talk about your budgets, and you talk about your department budgets, and you see where as a team, you potentially could cut if you have to cut, and what is the priority? You don't tell them the priority, you listen to their input, and then you together set that priority. Vision, transparency equals trust. Trust is vital for communication with students, teachers, as well as the community. Execution, excellence, fly. It is important anytime you follow any of these policies or anytime you set these processes up. Thank you.
It's Laura.
Yeah, one more.
Michael, have you gone first yet?
I have. Laura's got one
Okay,
more.
Laura, I'm losing it.
Turn
See,
in
happens to
favor.
me too.
Yeah.
All right, so when I was first appointed to the board was in the middle of 2 years, like a 2-year process of budget cuts. It was in the news, it was millions of dollars. We heard the RIF word, we lost people, but we gained some of them back. It was awful. It was awful for the community, it was awful for the teachers, and no one on the board was like, yes, let's please fire our beloved teachers who our children love, who our staff love. And going in there in the middle of it, I was able to see the comprehensive process that went into making that tough decision. And it wasn't just isolated in one place. It was not just in the superintendent's cabinet. It involved building leadership as well to come in and try to make these decisions so we could all have some ownership over these choices. The fact is that over the last decade, student supplemental aid from the state, that percent number, hasn't kept up with cost of living, expenses, insurance premiums, your utility bills that the school also has to pay. And yet our largest budget item, like Evan said, is teachers. And so if we continue receiving less than that cost of living measure, we're going to reach that point where we're not able to pay those teachers. And like Nadette said, what's the choice going to be? I'll leave it on a dramatic note.
All right, I've been watching the clock, and I'm so sorry that I wasn't going to let you talk, Laura. But questions that are left, I'm going to share what the topics are, and then pose a summary question, because we're down to the point where we need to do our closing. And 2 minutes for closing, Joy? So here were the topics: STEM, AI, parental involvement, workforce development career training. Before I pose the final question as a summary of those, though, I would like to thank the candidates for coming and for sharing their viewpoint, and for you as citizens to care enough to come. You know, the league always says democracy is not a spectator sport, so we appreciate all of you. After the final question, you can share your applause with the group. We ask that candidates not hand out any political material in this room, because we're League of Women Voters and we do not support any individual candidates. So if you want to meet with candidates outside in the library, you're welcome to. We're going to roll this over pretty quickly then for the city council candidates. So the last question, and Evan, I think we're back to you for starters.
Sounds good.
When you think about those topics I just named off that people had questions about, what are the top 1 or 2 issues facing Linn-Mar K through 12 schools?
I don't think it would be a stretch to say that under the very nice way of putting it, parental involvement, that there are opportunities there, especially from an aspect of transparency, so that we can maybe start to bridge a gap on some members of our community who are very angry and very frustrated. I don't think that it is in our best interest to write anyone off. At the same time, I think that concerns that some parents share with the district are outlandish and sometimes are frankly not based in reality and may be based on conspiracy theories. But at the same time, I think that's all the more reason that they are not shrugged off and ignored. I think one of the only ways we're going to have a breakthrough is if you can honestly listen to somebody, empathize with them, and try to find some common ground. Because it doesn't do any good if we write anyone off from our community or anyone off from the involvement. Lastly, I got a few seconds here. I think that workforce training is vitally important. We're seeing a decrease in the number of students who are going to college. That's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that we need to understand that that's part of that we have more young people that are going to enter different work fields, and supporting them when they do that, I think, is a vitally important goal. And I think it's going to better serve people who are then more active, more happy, and more engaged in their community because they're doing something they want to do. Thank you.
Michael, and then
Just to clarify, is this our closing?
yes.
Okay. All right.
Kind of the summary of that question, what are the 1 or 2 primary issues that
We're not going to do a closing after this?
No.
Oh.
This is it. Yes, I told them the 2 minutes. Did you cut Evan short? Evan, you want 30 more seconds?
Sure.
So just to repeat the statement, it was about what 1 or 2 topics impacts.
Well, and just as a closing, one of the things that I want to share, you know, when I grew up, I remember the idea that Fred Rogers always said is look for the helpers. And there's a time in your life when you are the person who's looking for the helpers, and there's a time in your life when you stand up and you want to be that role model, and you want to be that helper for someone else, and you want to be their strength, and you want to be their light. And for me, that point in my life is now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Evan. All right. Michael.
All right, thank you. STEM, AI, workforce development, it all comes down to students, teacher, academics. Do we understand the life cycle of a student right now? When I went to the last board meeting, they gave good academic reports, not enough. What is the life cycle from a kindergartner to a high schooler, to their career, to their retirement? And are we giving them the tools to know what their path should or shouldn't be, whether it is universities or technical colleges or other? We have to give them the core foundational skill set to know what is my path, to know when subjects like what has been coming up lately, if they have a voice, can they share that voice? Yes, and let's give them the tools early on to be able to share that voice. Teachers, hired or retired. I watched the staff report. Retention is an issue. and it's about salary and other employment. I think it was about 43 or 46% of our teachers are leaving because of other employment or because of salary. We have to change the mentality. It's not just about the money, it's hire to retire. And in that staffing report, we talked about exit interviews and how we didn't have many fill that out. What about stay interviews? What about being proactive and figuring out what the teachers need today to be successful? Academics, let's be the best. Why not be the best? We compared numbers on the academic report and we're, hey, success, we're above average. Let's do better. Let's be the district of choice. Let's hold people accountable by support and giving them the tools to be successful, working as a team and doing it together. So I ask you to vote for Michael Bowling for Linn-Mar School Board. And if you want more about me, follow me on my Facebook page at Bowling for Linn-Mar. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
I wanted to start by saying that one of actually the strengths that I think Linn-Mar has as a district is parental involvement. If you've been to a show choir event, a football event, the homecoming parade, you've seen the community turn out in droves, not only to watch, but to help. And so when I think of parental involvement, community involvement, I think about all those people who really live out that we are Linn-Mar and are proud to call Linn-Mar home. When I heard STEM, AI, workforce development, it made me think of something that I try to do in all the aspects of my board work, which is allow multiple paths for a variety of learners. So not every student is going to excel academically in that butts in seats structure. I have one kid who does. I have one kid who probably isn't going to for very much longer. I was one of those kids who was. Like, I'm like, okay, let's go for college. You know, I'm headed to whatever school. There might be more, Evan, just wait. But my parents were very puzzled because all my friends in high school were the ones who loved working on their cars, who were more involved with the healthcare field. My partner today is a paramedic. I'm so proud of him. I'm a big believer in that route to college, like Evan said, isn't the right route for every kid. And I want Linn-Mar to build on venture academics, to build on the Compass and Atlas programs, to give students of all ages and all backgrounds a future. Lastly, I wanted to say that public education is a crucial community asset. I love being a servant on the Linn-Mar School Board. It's a lot of work, it's a labor of love, and I would be honored to continue serving on the Linn-Mar School Board. Thank you.
So we want to take Linn-Mar to the future. We want to continue developing Linn-Mar. I feel our biggest strengths are parent involvement, like Laura said. Our community of volunteers. My daughter graduated, I'm still a volunteer. I see a lot of volunteers like that. Shirley Moran, who was just, the marching band show was named after her this time at the 30th anniversary. She is a lifelong Linn-Mar volunteer. We name our concession stands after Linn-Mar volunteers. Go Pete King. We are also doing a lot of things in the academia area. We check curriculums over again. What's working, what's not working. We're going to building principals, asking what's working, what's not working. That's what we do. That's what our board work is. That's what when we go into different buildings to visit, that's what we talk about. We talk about enrollment trends. We talk about a lot of this. What I feel like Linn-Mar needs is to go into the future. So AI, blended learning, AI learning, and we have invested in this beautiful administrative building, and guess what it's doing? It's helping do the PD for our teachers. So all the teachers can come together under one roof and learn together, learn from their experiences, what's working, what's not working. Again, this is our board work constantly. What's working, what's not working, let's see what's working, and let's continue that. Linn-Mar is a destination district. We want to continue to be a destination district. My brain works with data and data analyzing and looking at trends and looking at community. We are putting an RFP for a demographer. We're putting an RFP for an assessor to come and assess our building. We're looking at have an RFP for a demographer to come and tell us what enrollment's going to look like and what our communities are going to look like. Thank you.
I think we should thank these 4 citizens who are willing to serve the community, are already serving the community in multiple ways, but let's express our appreciation to them. And now we switch gears and set up for the Marion City Council candidates. Thank you all for coming, and I hope many of you stay. It's wonderful to see this many people who are interested in politics at the local level. In addition to the League of Women Voters is a non-partisan.
We're going to be starting the next session. Please come on in.
Don't support candidates or any political party, but we do focus on issues that are of concern to our membership. I'm Carolyn Stevenson with the Linn County League of Women Voters, and we are so grateful that we also have the sponsorship of the Marion Chamber of Commerce, the Marion Economic Development Corporation, to help us provide this educational opportunity to our community. And that's one of the key focuses of the League of Women Voters. We may have women in our name, but our organization is open to all if you're 16 years and older. Our protocol tonight is we'll have our candidates, Destiny Hastings and Elridge Unineman. No, I said that wrong. Kelvin. I have my cheat sheet here. Unineman. They'll have 2 minutes each to introduce themselves, and then be sure to, if you have questions, hold it up. Somebody will come and get them, and it'll get to me, and we'll get as many questions in as we can. We originally needed to be out of this room to end at 7, but we got a little bit late start putting these 2 back to back. So the latest we can push it is 7:15, and then we'll have to quickly exit. And if you have other commitments and can't stay beyond 7 o'clock, just quietly exit. All right, did I cover everything? 2 minutes for the opening statement, and 1.5 minutes for each answer. So, Kelvin, let's start with you. 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Good evening, folks. I am Kelvin Unineman. I am running for state council. I've lived in Marion for 10 years. I moved to the United States from Nigeria a while ago. I lived in Houston for a while, and I've been in Marion for 10 years. I am currently the city procurement coordinator for the city of West Des Moines. I have a lot of background in city procurement, and I'm on my second 6 years contract with the Iowa National Guard as a logistics specialist. I decided to run because I'm the HOA, president of my HOA. We've had a lot of issues with the city with regards to easement dumping of water, and I've reached out to the city, tried to work and make things even for everybody, but they decided not to help us, which I feel, as a citizen, every citizen in Marion has to have their voice heard and have solutions to their problem when they go to City Hall. So that's why I'm running.
Thank you. As my sign says, I'm Destiny Hastings. And Marion became my home for the second time 9 years ago. And pretty much from the start of me moving in, I rolled up my sleeves and got involved because I think you need to give back to your community that has done so much for you. And I believe that those who can should. So I started volunteering with the Uptown District, their community, the development committee, and then ended up serving on their board of advisors as well. I am an alumni of the Marion Leadership and Action Program. If you haven't gone through that program, I encourage you to do so because you will learn so much more about this amazing city. You learn past, present, and future. Evan, I feel like I'm having the same problem you did. Maybe it's this chair. And then for the last 5 years, I have served on the Planning and Zoning Commission. So I know more about light pollution and setbacks and easements. And the hours I've spent talking about drive-throughs is something I never really said I want to do when I grow up when I was a little kid, but here we are. So I've actually, I've had my eye on the city council for a long time, and I know all of this community engagement and service with planning and zoning. I think there's no better way to prepare me to serve. I agree, everyone who lives in Marion deserves a voice. most important thing you can do as a council member is listen. Be available, listen, transparency, and honesty. And so I'm excited to continue to serve Marion on a bigger level.
Well, that's a perfect lead-in to the first question I plan to ask. And you'll have a minute and a half, and Destiny, we'll start with you, and then Kelvin. How have you, or how do you, plan to seek information from citizens regarding needs or addressing challenges that come to your attention?
So participating in the city council office hours that are at farmers markets, Hy-Vee, various opportunities throughout the year for city council members to sit down with residents in the area and hear straight from the horse's mouth what the needs are, what the concerns are, what the wants are. Sometimes wants and needs are not the same thing. And then really just being available. Obviously, as a council member, anybody can you reach out to me and ask a question, and I'm happy to always meet for coffee. I've been having a lot of coffee lately since announcing this campaign. And it really is about being available.
Good question. Now I have to look. I have a lot of questions up here. How have you, or how do you plan to seek information from citizens regarding needs or addressing challenges that come to your attention?
First of all, is having an open line of communication, meeting with your citizens, knocking on doors, even though you become a councilman, still go out there and reach out to people, ask what's going on, and get information from City Hall to be able to deliberate on and give you feedback on what they think of the way you should move forward when it comes to those issues. And at the same time, like she said, having to meet people at the farmers market is a great place to be, and having an open line of communication, emails, phone calls, and having your information out there so people can reach you easily.
Thank you. Kelvin, keep the mic because you're going to get first shot at this next question. The questions are good. What do you understand to be the scope of the city council and its role with city staff?
When it comes to city staff, the council role, the role is to make sure the city is well governed and move in the direction that every citizen is hoping the city should move towards too. And at the same time, making sure we have the best staff to have those goals achieved, and making sure there is a measurement for every incoming staff to have in terms of productivity and making us achieve those goals.
Okay, so the scope of city council and the relationship with staff, right? Okay. So council has to have a good relationship with city staff. They are the subject matter experts. I don't think anyone on the council is currently a subject matter expert in parking or parks or emergency services, maybe. So you really have to lean heavy on those who are those subject matter experts, and you use their knowledge and their guidance, their wisdom, and their experience to help navigate the decisions that need to be made. Of course, there is oversight for fiscal responsibility, operational efficiency, and making sure that we are making the right decisions for the right reasons.
All right, Destiny, hold on to that mic. You'll go first. I'm going to put a little context to this overall question. There were several questions related to vision and planning and improvement priorities, such as infrastructure, the aquatic center, parking. How is parking being addressed in Uptown Marion? So let me pose this question this way. What do you believe most needs improvement, and what ideas do you have for making necessary changes? So if you consider what those concerns are of people here.
All right, had to write all that down. So, Marion has had significant growth in a fairly short period of time, which is really exciting, right? It's great to see that growth. I think infrastructure is incredibly important. We have to make sure that we have the infrastructure in place to support that growth, and that's everything from emergency management services to available sewer lines for development. So there's a lot of fun, flashy, really great things that happen in this city, but as our population continues to grow, we have to make sure we have the services available to support that population growth.
For me, since I've been out there reaching out and talking to people, people have been telling me we need to improve on what we have already. They don't think we need a new aquatic center, and the issue of parking downtown has been an issue when I've discussed with people. They think we need to improve parking downtown. And when it comes to the flashy new things, people don't really want those things, except there is a big layout of how the spending is going to where spending is coming from, what's the what side effects the city is going to have with those spending when we go overboard in improving or building new items. People want what we have to be improved, like we did to the uptown area. They want to see stuff like that happen instead of building new shiny stuff.
All right, thank you. Kelvin, hold the mic, you'll start the next. This is a question related to inclusiveness, and how will you or have you embraced and or championed diversity in the type of role as a city council member? Not necessarily personally, but in the public role.
I think for every community, inclusiveness drives growth and makes everybody happy and move in the right direction. If someone's left behind, then you have one angry person or one angry group who are mad at others for not being included in the whole situation. For myself, I think bringing everybody to the table when there's an issue and having a conversation helps in making inclusivity work better.
So you're right, inclusiveness does mean everyone who's here has a voice. And you have to bring people to the table and listen with it comes to the table with good intentions, with the right intentions, with an open mind and an open ear, and listen to what they have to say. You know, our residents here in Marion have a lot of great ideas. And as a council person, I would hope that people would bring those ideas to me or to us, and we can consider how those ideas, fit into our long-term planning and what the city strategy looks like. Those strategies can sometimes need a little help or need a little tweaking, and that's okay.
Thank you. Destiny, if you'll hold that mic. Thinking about not only the Marion community, but perhaps if you've lived elsewhere, how have you been involved in the community, and what have you learned from that involvement that you will bring to the city council?
So, outside of Marion, I have been very much involved in the community in Cedar Rapids, and served as the Community Development Innovation Committee Chair I served as chair for 1 year, I was a vice chair, and then a member for several years. So I have experience with working within the Economic Alliance and working with the business community and economic development. I also have a background in workforce development, Laura, so careers and workforce is a big thing for me too. I've had a lot of conversations about the brain drain, things that are going on here. What have I learned? Tons. I mean, that's part of the process, right? You walk into something and you don't know everything, but you dig in, you roll up your sleeves, and you learn. So I've learned a lot about the importance of communities working together. You know, city limit is really just a sign. You know, we have to be partners with the communities around us too, so we can all thrive and flourish.
Like I said, I am currently the procurement coordinator for the City of West Des Moines. Bringing minority and women-owned business to do business with West Des Moines has really helped the city in terms of keeping the finance in the city, making sure the small business have a share of government contracts when it comes to procurement from that the city is making. And I mentioned my easement issues with the city. At the same time, I have been able to know that not only my HOA has issues with the city when it comes to using their easement as a waterway. I have been able to gather every HOA that has issues with the city, and we've been able to go to the city to find solutions to our problem. And having people come together helps in terms of getting what you want achieved.
All right, the next question. Thank you, and Kelvin, hold on to that. What are your top 2 or 3 priorities?
Number one priority is I want a Marion where senior folks can retire in peace. I've been knocking on doors, and due to the easement issues, most HOAs keep raising their HOA fees, and these retired folks are on fixed income. They can't keep paying higher HOA fees to solve the problem that is caused by the city. And my second priority is accountability. The city of Marion right now, we're running at a deficit for the past 2 years. We need to cut down on our spending and our borrowing, and we've been issuing too much tips to developers. We need to make sure those tips are paying the city back what they want. And my third one is an addition. I think we need to diversify as a city and stop depending on property taxes.
So my first priority actually would also be digging into the budget. Obviously, that's a big part of being on city council and understanding all the pieces of that financial puzzle. So I want to make sure that I have the knowledge to make informed decisions with budget dollars. And the second priority is to talk to people, is to understand what our residents need, what they want, what our business community needs and wants. And so the best way for me to learn is to talk to people.
This next question has to do with property taxes, and the legislature has already passed property tax legislation that has had an impact on cities and counties, and there may be more property tax changes in this next round of legislation. How does that impact the city and its planning for providing services?
So are you referring to the state basically saying, like, you're not getting as much money as you used to? Okay, just want to make sure I was answering appropriately. So yeah, I mean, if there's not as much money coming in, you have to tighten your belt, right? I mean, we all do it in our own homes. Things are getting more expensive, it seems, by the day, and we all have to make those tough choices within our own homes and our own budgets. And this, as a city, we have to do that. We have to look and say, okay, is there overspending? Probably not. But where else are there projects that maybe we can pause? Are there contracts that we can renegotiate for better financial position? It's important to investigate all of those options.
I mentioned diversifying our economy. So I've been looking at the budget since I decided to run. There is overspending. We can just go back to the aquatic center. So far, the city has spent $1.5 million on planning and the referendum and asking people about, do we need a pool? That's money going into the drain, because that's not going to happen. And when I talk about the state saying you can't tax people or you can't get enough from property taxes, I think we need to look elsewhere. Like I said, I would say of West Des Moines, we have a business whose property valuation is the whole of Windsor Heights, which is a city in Des Moines Metro. We should not depend on property taxes alone. We should try to get businesses who are big employers, who have big campuses to build, and when they come in, we can get property taxes from them instead of increasing property taxes on the citizens.
Thank you. This question has to do with community involvement, and how do you propose to engage the community as active partners with the broader view?
Having a meeting once in a while, sending newsletters before council meetings, sending citizens the minutes for the meeting so they know what council is talking about. When you know what council is talking about on the agenda, you would be interested in knowing how the city is moving forward. And when you have a question on the agenda, you would reach out to your councilman. So those are the plans I have in mind. Having one-on-ones, having a group session of meet and greet, and having my line of communication open.
Communication is critical. You know, there's roughly 43,000 people that live in Marion, last time I heard, anyway, and that's a lot of people to communicate with, right? So as a council person, absolutely making sure that community is aware of council meetings and what is on the agenda, what a public hearing means, but also what are the events going on in the community, what are some of the community groups that people can get involved in, what commissions have openings where people can get involved, because that's the great thing is when community people get involved with their community.
I have a closing question. I've run through the questions I have. Does anyone have a question you want to write down? I know, I've outed you now if you hand it to me, but I would ask it. No? Okay. So, Destiny and Kelvin, you have 2 minutes to, think on this question, not to think on it, but to answer it. What makes you stand out to represent Marion at large?
I gotta go first, huh? And this is also where I kind of make my closing statement?
Yep.
2 minutes, okay. Well, as I said in my introduction, for the last 9 years, I've been incredibly involved in this community, whether it's, within Leadership in Action program, and I'm not only a alum the year after I served as a captain, so I could help the new group going through have a great experience, working with the Chamber and the Uptown Advisory Board I've gotten to be a part of all the wonderful things that are happening in the Uptown District. And again, 5+ years on planning and zoning, I've gotten to be a part of so many decisions that end up with City Council. Sometimes they kick it back to us because they don't agree, and that's okay, and then we have further conversations. So there's already a partnership and collaboration with City Council, so I'm very familiar with how it all works. I'm familiar with order. I've spent the time and I've done the work and I'm ready. I've been working toward this for a long time. I'm prepared. I'm excited. I love this city. This is full of amazing people with great ideas. So many of the things that we see that have come to be in this city is because they are ideas from the community. And when they're your ideas, it's even better, right? So I've done the work, and I'm excited to represent on a bigger level, on a broader level, and learn things that I still don't know. Recently had a council person tell me that you are surprised how much you don't know in your first year, but you learn quick, and I'm a quick learner. So I'm very excited and would definitely appreciate your vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Like I said, I am currently working for a city, so I know how how the city works. I work in the finance department, so I know how budgets work. And I have presented to City Council too, and I have brought up solutions to spending issues by departments in terms of procurement. And with my economics and my master's in business administration, I would be looking at those numbers every day, and I would be making sure that the budgets are sustainable and they are what we need to move forward. Couple of my military background, when it comes to integrity, the military shows that in you and duty. So I'm here to serve, and come November, please vote for me. Thank you.
Well, I thought that was going to be your final hurrah, but if you're willing to answer another question or two, we're not pushed up to 7 p.m. just yet.
Let's do it.
All right. We understand the role of the legislature and its role in setting property tax rates. What do you see the role of a city council member in relationship with the legislature as it affects city funding?
When it comes to city funding, as a councilman, the state gives you a guideline on how taxes should go. At the same time, you have to look at your spending and how it affects your budget. Which brings me back again to diversifying and us moving away from depending taxes too much. And as a councilman, you have to come up with plans on how to make your budget work and have a good relationship with your finance department and making sure every borrowing that the city is doing is paying back for what we're borrowing for, and at the same time making sure that every incentives that we're giving to businesses or the developers in the city are paying back what we hoped for.
Okay, so both of us have an MBA, and I think this question just kicked in both of our MBA brains. But yes, exactly. What the legislature sets is what we as in the city have to use for guidelines, regulations, etc., the guardrails. And like I said with my budget question earlier, it's taking a hard look at your budgets and overspending. How can we making sure that we are fiscally responsible with all of the funding, budget management, making sure our investments are getting the ROI that we anticipate them to have. So it really boils down to that budget management.
Well, thank you for taking a question after the question.
That's the real question.
That was the real question. I'm going to wrap us up for a moment. I'd like to thank ProVideo for live streaming this on Facebook, and this forum, as well as the Linn-Mar School Board candidate forum, will be on the League of Women Voters Linn County Facebook site in a few days. So we much appreciate that we can share this message beyond those who could attend. But we very much appreciate candidates for their willingness to serve. Isn't that the basis of our democracy? That average citizens are willing to step up and say, I'll serve my community. So thank you to Kelvin Uniman. It's not as bad as having to list all the names of the students graduating from Kirkwood. And Destiny Hastings. Susan, am I forgetting anything?
Well, and we're just so thrilled that the Marion Chamber and Marion Economic Development Medco agreed to collaborate with us on this event. It was just a treat to be able to work with them. So we're really
Thank you. And we won't hold you past 7.